Some of you may know some of my backstory. Back in 2012, I wrote a blog post about masturbation within the Mormon community. I wrote a blog called The Mormon Therapist, which was like a Dear Abby about mental health issues. At the time, I was still very much in the thick of my professional journey and my faith community. That blog post went a bit viral because I dared to say something that was considered blasphemous, that masturbation should not be considered a sin. Rather, if you're from a faith-affirming community, you can look at it as a God-given tool for self-regulation, self-soothing, pain control, stress relief, even sleep support. The blog was controversial, but it resonated because it spoke truth to people's lived experiences, and it pushed back against a culture of shame. So today, I want to take that conversation, go way deeper with the framework of my pep talk model, because it's not enough to just give permission. We also need a lot of education and practice. I'm the sex Mormon therapist with the emphasis on X. I'm a certified sex therapist here to help you get the information we never got at church, unlearn the shame we did, and reconnect with your pleasure, because pleasure is not a sin. Make sure to subscribe if you're looking for real talk, tips, and tricks to better sex and relationships. Let's first educate ourselves as to the consequences of religious prohibitions on masturbation. Number one, psychological and emotional harm. Shame and guilt get internalized because of this belief that natural desires are dirty or sinful. 2, anxiety and scrupulosity, this constant fear of divine punishment or unworthiness for, again, natural bodily functions. 3, lower self-esteem, associating one's body and sexuality with moral failure. 4, cognitive dissonance, this conflict between your natural urges and your religious teachings that create chronic stress, because the church makes it sound like you shouldn't have any problem never masturbating. 5, increased secrecy and isolation. Hiding behavior usually erodes authenticity and increases distress. Now let's look at the consequences for your sexual development and sexual function. Religious teachings against masturbation actually increase sexual dysfunction. We see higher rates of erectile dysfunction, anorgasmia, vaginismus, and premature ejaculation linked to shame. Difficulty with arousal. Associating pleasure with sin inhibits natural arousal responses, and you learn from pretty early ages to shut much of your eroticism down. Poor sexual self-knowledge. Lack of solo exploration makes it much harder to communicate your own needs with future partners. Reduced orgasm quality. Fear and guilt interfere with the relaxation and the surrender that are required for orgasm. And then erotic avoidance, distancing yourself from sexual touch altogether to avoid sin. Now for the relational impacts of masturbation being seen as a big sin. Communication breakdown. Partners may feel unable to discuss sex openly when they grew up in purity culture types of environments. Mismatched libidos. If you, like most couples, don't have a libido that magically align, unpracticed self-awareness leads to more relational strain, and a tool that could be used to bridge some of those divides is not used. Sexual anxiety in marriage. Even after religious approval of sex, the shame persists. I oftentimes hear from women in particular that there's no turn on button after the turn off button has been pressed for years prior to marriage. Increased infidelity or compulsive patterns. When repression fails, behaviors may emerge in unhealthy, secretive ways. And then power and control dynamics. Religious institutions gain authority over members' private sexual choices. And I will add to this that the whole pornography dilemma within religious communities often is tied to masturbation. And therefore now we have this whole idea that you are addicted to your own body, which is just, well, that's a whole nother video I'll have to create. There are also behavioral and social risks. This cycle of sin, repent, repeat can lead to more compulsive behavior rather than mindful, healthy sexuality. What I have always found tragic is that as religious communities try to condone natural behavior, that behavior gets actually amplified in some unhealthy ways instead of normalized. Exploitation and vulnerability. People ignorant of their bodies are more susceptible to abuse and manipulation. And then, of course, the pathologizing normal behavior. Masturbation is mislabeled as addiction, leading to harmful treatment models. As I had just mentioned, and nowhere can you see this better than in what is being shared on many documentaries, the Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt case, where Jodi Hildebrandt was the therapist or the coach, basically being very punitive within marital counseling to, in particular, men who might masturbate or look at pornography, with the result being the destruction of many marriages. And when marriages in these types of communities don't know how to normalize solo sexuality, then you get all of this messaging around feeling betrayed, and even the words betrayal trauma are used only because one person is having a relationship with themselves. We also have quite a bit of social stigma. Individuals might fear judgment from family, peers, clergy, and that can deepen isolation, which, as we know, with any compulsion, that's going to drive the compulsion even further. Okay, now let's talk about health consequences. You might be missing regulation benefits, loss of stress relief, sleep support, and pain management tools, for example. When you're not allowed to use masturbation as a normal release and a physical function, this can increase physical tension. It can lead to repression. It can worsen anxiety, headaches, even body aches and cramps. Masturbation is slightly tied also to prostate health protection, so fewer ejaculations have been linked to higher prostate cancer risk. In summary, when religion forbids masturbation, people often inherit shame, anxiety, dysfunction, and relational harm instead of the natural benefits their bodies are designed to experience. This is a huge reason as to why I became a sex therapist after primarily working with folks that come from high demand religions, because I could see the many consequences that I've just listed. Even though they're all evidence-based, I had personal experience in my office day after day until about 10 years into my career, I decided to get my education as a certified sex therapist. So now let's educate ourselves as to the evidence-based benefits of masturbation. Let's talk about the benefits for mental and emotional health. Masturbation actually helps with stress reduction. Orgasm releases endorphins and oxytocin, which lower cortisol and promote calm. Of course, you can get these benefits through partnered orgasm as well, but today we're just talking about masturbation. Masturbation can improve your mood. Dopamine, serotonin, these help relieve symptoms of depression and anxiety. You can get better sleep. Orgasm activates the parasympathetic nervous system, making it easier to fall and stay asleep. Masturbation can help you with body positivity. It can promote self-acceptance, comfort with nudity, and positive body image. Shame reduction. Masturbation can normalize sexual pleasure as a healthy human function. Now the benefits for sexual health and function. Masturbation can improve sexual satisfaction. If you know yourself better, that can enhance partnered sex. Better orgasm quality comes from masturbation practice because it strengthens your pelvic muscles and orgasmic response. Masturbation can help with arousal disorders. It can reduce anorgasmia, vaginismus, and erectile challenges by reducing anxiety and increasing familiarity with your own body. Masturbation can be a boost in your libido. Regular sexual activity supports desire cycles. And masturbation prepares the body for partnered sex, helps communicate preferences, and reduces performance pressure. Masturbation has physical health benefits. Pain relief. Orgasm releases endorphins that can ease menstrual cramps, chronic pain, and tension headaches. Immune system support. Orgasm increases certain antibodies, potentially boosting immunity. Hormonal balance. Masturbation and orgasm can help regulate testosterone, estrogen, and oxytocin levels. Your pelvic floor health. Orgasms strengthen those muscles, reducing risks of incontinence. And there is a cardiovascular benefit as well. It increases your heart rate and blood flow, similar to light exercise. Long-term health benefits. We already talked about prostate health and that regular ejaculation is linked to lower prostate cancer risk. Longevity and vitality. So sexual activity, including solo sex, is associated with quality of life and healthy aging. Cognitive function. Sexual activity is correlated with improved memory and executive function in older adults. And for relational and developmental benefits, sexual self-efficacy fosters confidence in one's erotic abilities. Hopefully it helps you become a better communicator and make it easier to tell partners what works and what doesn't. Masturbation is awesome at safe exploration. There's nothing safer than safe sex with yourself, and it provides a risk-free way to experiment without STIs or unwanted pregnancies. Masturbation can be very helpful with identity integration, where you're reconciling maybe your sexuality with your spirituality, your culture, your personal values, and figuring out who you are. Masturbation can be a tool of empowerment by reinforcing bodily autonomy and ownership of pleasure, meaning your body is yours first. So in short, masturbation supports mental, physical, relational, and sexual well-being. The consensus among sexologists, therapists, and major medical bodies such as the American Sexual Health Association, Planned Parenthood, the World Health Organization, is that masturbation is a normal, healthy, beneficial behavior at all stages of life. Now let's talk about the self-regulation side of masturbation. Like I shared under the benefits, our nervous system needs tools to help us manage stress, anxiety, pain, or simply transitions throughout the day. Some people go for a walk, some meditate, some journal. Masturbation is another tool in that toolbox. Physiologically, orgasm releases endorphins and oxytocin, chemicals that relax the body, reduce pain, and improve mood. For many, masturbation is a powerful way to fall asleep, and it can also serve as a reset button when anxiety is high or emotions are overwhelming. This is why it drives me nuts when folks from the sex addiction model have these quizzes, and one of the questions undoubtedly is usually, do you use masturbation as a coping skill, as if this is bad? This is a good thing. You have a built-in coping mechanism within your own body that includes pleasure and that includes orgasm all by yourself. And if you're a person of faith, you can see this as something designed into us, not as a flaw. It's literally a built-in resource for calming, regulating, and recentering. So instead of viewing masturbation as dirty or sinful, what if we reframed it as sacred self-care? Many of us grew up in purity culture or high-demand religions like Mormonism, where masturbation was demonized. We were told it was addictive, that it would ruin our marriages, that God would be very disappointed at us, or even that it would keep us out of heaven. That kind of messaging doesn't just disappear, it embeds deeply in our nervous systems. The only way to truly release that shame is through practice. And this is where the pep talk model comes in. You want to start with permission, giving yourself the right to even try, to say things like, this is okay, my body is mine, pleasure is not shameful. I will tell you just from my own experience that giving myself permission again to masturbate shame-free took years. And even now, sometimes I'll have a twinge of a little doubt. And so I recognize that for what it is, that indoctrination that made me feel badly about a self-soothing tool. Then we go to education, which I just gave you a lot of. Learning about your anatomy, how arousal works, how orgasm works, techniques, and debunking myths is super important to being able to be successful at any new skill. And then the practice. This is the fun part, actually doing it. And not just once, but enough times that your body starts to associate self-touch with safety, pleasure, and empowerment rather than fear or guilt. We want to give our body a whole lot of new evidence for it to land differently within our nervous systems. Remember what I've said before, that at church, they used to warn us about the slippery slope, that if you repeated something enough, you'd get desensitized and get used to sinning. Well, guess what? They were right in a way. The more we practice, the easier it becomes. But instead of getting desensitized to quote unquote sin, we're resensitizing ourselves to pleasure, to confidence, and to erotic integration. Now, let's connect this again to partnered sex. When you practice solo, you build confidence in your body and in your responses. You learn techniques that you can later communicate to a partner. You can also perform them in front of your partner. And guess what? Most partners love to see their person self-eroticize. Masturbation will help reduce your anxiety about performance because you know what works for you now. It can improve your orgasm quality because your body becomes familiar with reaching arousal and release. This opens the door for greater erotic creativity because you're not locked into one idea of how sex should go. In other words, practicing solo sex is an investment in partnered sex. It makes you a better communicator, a more relaxed lover, and a more generous partner because you're not expecting your partner to figure you out or carry the full responsibility for your pleasure. So here's the bottom line. Masturbation is not a sin. It's a practice. It's self-care. It's regulation. And it's a path toward better intimacy with yourself and with others. When we reframe masturbation as practice and practice to actually feel pleasure, we free ourselves from shame and step into a whole nother realm of sexual integrity. And integrity is really what this is about, living in alignment with truth, with pleasure, and with love. So I want to leave you with this. Your pleasure, it starts with you. When you invest in solo exploration, you're not only honoring your body, you're building the foundation for more connected, fulfilling, partnered experiences. I'd love to hear from you. What's coming up for you as I talk about masturbation? What are you noticing? Were you taught that masturbation was a sin, or did you somehow escape that ugly teaching? If you were taught that, how did that affect your ability to have a sexual relationship with yourself? Have you deconstructed this harmful teaching? How have you helped yourself feel less shame around this natural bodily function that has been so weaponized against us? Okay, if you enjoy my content and want to go deeper, go sign up for my newsletter at natashahelfer.com. You'll get a free copy of my current download, hopefully full of juicy information. Remember to ring my bell and subscribe. I give you full consent.